Chapter 463. Since Cat Eyes and Luo Nan were shoulder to shoulder, she slid down Luo Nan's chest the moment she curled up. Her bent elbow struck a vital spot. Luo Nan's instinctive reaction had yet to subside, but he only furrowed his brows at Cat Eyes' more stimulating actions. He pushed Cat Eyes away. "You can see a psychiatrist. Let's go together." Cat Eyes did not care what pose Luo Nan wanted to take. Her attitude was relaxed, as if she was joking with a close friend. However, the words that came out of her mouth were extremely strange. "Did you know? Most of the awakened ones who were still in puberty rarely suppressed themselves. Whether it was psychologically or physically, they had strong stimulations and needs. This was the norm. But now, the problem is, you can still make it physically, but psychologically, it's a little strange." She didn't give Luo Nan a chance to refute. Her eyeballs shifted to the other side and she pointed at Yuqin, for example. "You should know that, smart girl. All you need to do is crook your finger, and she absolutely wouldn't mind using this sort of method to mend the relationship. That's enough from you. Awakened ones aren't born stallions, okay?" Luo Nan's words were like this, but his eyes unconsciously shot a glance in Yuqin's direction. Right now, Yuqin's mind was clearly not on the song and dance. Though she was sitting upright and still, she would send a gaze over from time to time. She was paying attention to the atmosphere of interaction between Luo Nan and Cat Eyes. "Are you tempted yet?" Cat Eyes stared fixedly at Luo Nan. It seemed that she would not give up until she detected the beast gene on Luo Nan's body. "If I don't, then I'm a pervert." "Yeah, a different kind of pervert. He's becoming more and more like some people." Some people. Although the statistics aren't complete, based on the current information, a similar situation would fit perfectly with those so-called gods and children of God who became extraordinaries a long time ago. "Thank you for thinking highly of me." "Think highly of me." "As expected, you're the one who's feigning ignorance." Cat Eyes moved her face closer once more. Her voice became cold and hoarse. "I don't believe that you can't tell, boss. I'm afraid of you." This time Luo Nan didn't push her away. Instead, he turned his face to the side. The distance between the two was so close that they could hear each other's breaths. People would believe it if they said they were kissing from a different angle. On the other side, Yuqin's breathing unconsciously quickened. Unfortunately, whether it was Luo Nan or Cat Eyes, neither of them had any thoughts of romance at the moment. "Boss, you're too close." Cat Eyes' breath faintly carried the fresh fragrance of tea. However, the meaning behind her words was sluggish and oppressive. "Shouldn't a god like you maintain a distance from your believers?" Luo Nan sighed, "I'm not a god. But it's a trainee. Therefore, you have to constantly ponder, practice, and experiment in order to improve. During this period of time, your followers, unfortunately, such as myself, will undoubtedly become your experimental subjects." "You think too much." Luo Nan felt that Cat Eyes was suffering from paranoia. Right when he was about to have a serious conversation with her, he heard a bang. Bai Yu and Clara, who had switched places in front of him, collided into each other. Their heads bumped into each other, and the sound was painful. The two women hugged their heads and squatted down. Bai Yu was in so much pain that tears rolled down her face. If such a low-level mistake were to happen on stage tonight, the BHD group would probably be fighting for the headlines. However, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes' exchange postures in such a deranged manner was eye-piercing and heart-piercing. The fact that the BHD trio managed to hold on until now before making a mistake was because they were focused. Luo Nan pulled a taut face and turned his face away. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She just clapped her hands again. "Focus a bit. The AR effects on stage are even more chaotic. When the time comes, you won't even have the chance to hug your heads and cry. Continue." The three girls were still in a daze. They just instinctively swayed along with the music and sang along to the lyrics. 6 gazes revolved around Luo Nan and Cat Eyes most of the time. Cat Eyes was not demanding. She just said to Luo Nan, "You see, BHD is just an experimental subject." Their appearance originated from the inspiration of the person in charge that lasted no more than 10 seconds. With this as the skeleton, a team was built, and the three of them were found one after another. Right now, the experiment has just begun. The person in charge is already impatient to let them go on stage. Right now, their biggest problem is that they don't have enough people. For example, on tonight's stage, there will inevitably be a visual blank. Their singing skills are far from being able to support a stage of 1 million people. So, they can only use backup dancers or large amounts of AR images to fill in the blanks, creating a situation where the host is usurped. Failure is inevitable. Luo Nan raised an eyebrow. "You're a teacher. Is it really okay to curse your own students?" A wondrous smile formed on Cat Eyes' lips. This isn't the first time BHD has failed. Their debut song lacks any special characteristics. They haven't even made a splash. They've failed to make it onto the charts. They don't have any endorsements to this day. Mingtang culture's internal allocation of resources is also very stingy. In the next 1 or 2 years, the company will probably make adjustments to them in terms of positioning and personnel. They will try them one by one. But the patience of a businessman is always limited. They will either find the right path and become successful and famous, or their team will disintegrate and find their next home. Their path to stardom will be dim and even abandoned. Having said this, Cat Eyes turned her head to look at Luo Nan once more. "You can say that you have some friendship with them. If you want to send them some words of encouragement, what should you say?" "Work hard." TSK. What in the world are you trying to say? I'm sorry, but the word "work hard" doesn't play a decisive role in determining their future. The one who truly controls them is Mingtang culture's artiste department. They are the person in charge who single-handedly forged them. The direction drawn by these people is the most crucial factor in the survival or destruction of the BHD group. "Boss, is this my future destiny?" Luo Nan wanted to refute her, but just as he opened his mouth, the words stuck in his throat. Right now he was looking straight into Cat Eyes' pupils. At the same time, he was grasping her life sketches and the structure of her body and soul. He gently plucked at the crisscrossing chains between them. In this state, even the slightest change in Cat Eyes could not escape his grasp. Could it still not be called fate? I've been flipping through nearly all the information related to the leaders of the order for some time now. The growth of nearly every god is established on a foundation that goes against human nature and the common sense of society. Your understanding of the world is on another level. Cat Eyes reached out her hand and gently touched Luo Nan's cheek. Her seemingly gentle movements were actually more like touching a cold, hard, and dignified statue of a god. There was observation, there was fear, there was inquiry, but there was no emotion factor between people. The will of a god is immeasurable. Destiny is the same. But I can tell you clearly, boss. I don't want to meaninglessly sacrifice myself for those inconceivable reasons. If I can't escape in the end, I'd rather die by the hands of a normal man. I understand the cause and effect clearly. Luo Nan frowned at first. Several seconds passed before he suddenly broke into laughter. Was this a prayer? No, this was clearly revenge. This was a declaration of war. Cat Eyes had avoided the pointless direct confrontation. Instead, she vowed to be a stumbling block on his path forward. She would do everything in her power to destroy his path to godhood. From the looks of it, her weapon was the so-called desire of human nature. Up to you. Luo Nan really wanted to emphasize once more that he never had any intentions of becoming a god. Cat Eyes' confrontation was meaningless. But there was no meaning in saying these words too much. His mind spun, and his train of thought traced back to the source. He suddenly understood why Cat Eyes suddenly felt fear in her heart. He flipped open his palm and gently clenched it twice. Chapter 464. Their gazes met, and the other couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He shifted his upper body slightly and frowned. You have a fierce gaze. You must have gotten into a lot of fights in the dojo recently. Oh yeah. Luo Nan recognized his sister. He then looked at his wristband. It was already 1:45 a.m., very close to the appointed time for breakfast. Where's your manners? The distance between the two was too close. Luo Nan still dared to call her by her name. Moya reached out her hand to pinch his face out of habit. Though Luo Nan had lowered his head to look at the time, he nimbly tilted his head to avoid the attack. Then he relied purely on the strength of his waist and legs to stand up in this extremely narrow space, jumping out of Moya's torment domain. Moya's eyes lit up. You're like a living monkey. You've grown capable. I'm all right. Luo Nan curled his lips. If it weren't for the fact that he was far too familiar with the aura of his family and that Cat Eyes, Yuqin, and the others had stayed at a safe distance for a long time by his side, leading to his lack of vigilance, Moya wouldn't even have had the chance to get close to him. Also, thank you for your contact lenses. Luo Nan wasn't prepared to get entangled with Moya over the issue of sibling status. He looked around and saw that Hai Jing was here as well. He raised his hand in greeting and said casually, "Are you done with practice?" Hai Jing chuckled. "Which one are you talking about? Do you want to watch me sleep?" Ha! Luo Nan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He turned his head and saw the BHD trio. Shui Yuan had her head buried in her clothes, Clara was admiring her nails, and Bai Yu was leaning against the enormous wall mirror. She stared blankly at the ceiling. It was unknown where her mind had wandered off to. Though the things they did were all different, there was one thing that was extremely synchronized: no one paid attention to Luo Nan. The atmosphere within the practice room was clearly low. Not good. He had offended someone. That's right. Not only was he flirting with the instructor in front of the gorgeous and dynamic song and dance, he could even openly sleep. What did he think of the three young and beautiful girls? Even if she doesn't hold a grudge, she still has to sort out her emotions, right? Luo Nan wanted to give a few words of explanation, but he discovered that he was simply unable to speak. He wanted to save the millions and millions of citizens of Xia City and prevent them from being harmed by the mutant virus. This was a great and honorable reason, but he needed people to believe it. There was no other way. Luo Nan could only choose the simplest and crudest method: I'm going out to make a call. Making a phone call was an excuse, but contacting Peony was a matter that could not be delayed. Luo Nan activated Ink's perspective as soon as he walked out the door. He determined Peony's position. The other side seemed to be the lobby of some high-class restaurant. Ink couldn't enter, so he could only see Peony's back through the street view glass. The latter was sitting peacefully on the sofa in the lobby waiting area. At this hour, was he taking a nap after the lunch? Luo Nan didn't think too much about it. He directly transmitted the information: suspected target discovered. Location outside Becky's coffee house on the west side of the plaza. Peony clearly leaned back and shot back with annoyance, "Mr. Partner, I'm on a date. I'm going to see my family, okay?" Aw. Forget it. Maybe this is God's will. Say it again, where is the target? Luo Nan saw that Peony didn't seem to be joking. He could not help but hesitate. Did I really disturb you? Then let's wait. Don't waste time. If you have something to say, say it. Peony took a deep breath, stood up, and looked around the hall. She seemed to still be reluctant to leave, but in the end, she still chose to walk out with large strides. Perhaps it's fine to follow Mr. Ink, right? An enormous crow flew across the plaza. It was quite eye-catching. Fortunately, Luo Nan's target was in the outer perimeter. There were many people in the plaza, and the environment was complex. For the first time, he explained a few characteristics of the target in advance. Female. Early 20s. She wears a brown long windbreaker. She should be a university student in the parade. There are quite a few people around her. She might be drinking right now. Her emotions are quite agitated. Peony walked forward as she listened. But her feet suddenly stopped in the end. She's in the 3rd stage of infection in the parade. That's a ticking time bomb, okay? I said it. It's just a suspected target. She shouldn't be in the 3rd stage. Not yet. It's not like she's a mutant. You're saying that she's in the 2nd stage. The suspicion in Peony's words could be clearly heard even from 2 kilometers away. I'm not sure, but it's really hard to classify this person. Luo Nan didn't explain further because he had been out on the phone for too long. Haijing opened the door and stuck his head out to remind him. You lock onto the target first. I have a bit of a situation over here. I'll contact you later. Okay. I'll contact you when I'm in place. Peony originally wanted to contact Trigate Security, but she put it aside for now. She prepared to observe and make a judgment. I hope it's not a momentary misconception. If there's no doubt about it, I support you in starting a new research topic. When that time comes, I can call you Professor Crow. Luo Nan responded in a bad mood, I'll take your auspicious words. He temporarily cut off the connection and returned to his room. Haijing laughed a bit apologetically. We're going out to eat. We're going to move now. On the other side, Moya had just ended her call. Her expression was gloomy. She looked like she had something on her mind. She recovered her usual carefree and confident attitude when she saw Luo Nan return. You're out of luck today. The beautiful woman I wanted to introduce to you isn't coming. Shui has something to do as well. She won't be participating in this event. The number of beautiful women has decreased by 2/3. Luo Nan didn't pay much attention to the first half of Shui's words, but he was a bit surprised that Shui wouldn't be going. Shui was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band. She was a band member whose popularity was second only to Moya. They were about to rehearse. Was she going to act alone? Haijing also laughed. I originally wanted to invite Teacher Cat Eyes and Miss Yuqin to come, but they need to accompany BHD to make some final adjustments. Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He turned to look at Cat Eyes. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She sent him a smile. Her intentions were quite subtle. An afternoon nap is very important. You can also do yoga in the meantime. Yuqin also said that she would accompany a friend. She wouldn't be joining in the fun. As for the trio from BHD, they were excluded from the very beginning. After all, they were still half-grown children. Their stage experience was far inferior to that of Moya, who had been struggling in the underground circles for many years. That being said, Luo Nan discovered that he seemed to have overestimated the Mountain Creek Band a bit when they arrived at the restaurant and the banquet began. The banquet started at 2:00. The atmosphere was quite average. The participants were probably pondering about tonight's performance. They were a bit unsatisfied with the food. Mountain Creek was the lowest of the 5-member bands. The lead singer and rhythm guitarist, Moya, and the drummer, Shui, didn't participate. These 2 beautiful women were the most popular. The other members were melodic guitarist, Wang Mo. He had taken over Moya's position after she switched to lead singer. He was a professional and skilled musician, but he was a bit reserved. The bass player, Huang Xiangdong, was normally as passionate as fire, but he was also a big alcoholic. The keyboard player, Ma Lu, was the oldest member of the band. He was in the band back when Hai Jing was the lead singer. He was a founding member of the band. It was reasonable to say that Ma Lu and Hai Jing were old acquaintances, but he simply didn't pay attention to them at the dining table. He just silently ate and drank by himself. His expression was indifferent. As for the others, Mo Ye was a bit absent-minded. It was unknown what she was thinking. Wang Mo's fingers were subconsciously tapping on the table. It was as if he was memorizing the fingering technique. Huang Xiangdong didn't touch a drop of alcohol. He just ate and ate in silence. The atmosphere grew more and more abnormal. Luo Nan knew that this sort of atmosphere wasn't good, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Plus, he was busy with other matters. He needed to seize every minute and second to communicate with Peony. He left the table to take a call halfway through his meal. Peony narrated the results of her observations. It's suspected that the target's mood is unstable. He's overly sensitive to external stimuli. He has physiological photophobia. His breathing and heartbeat rates are around 12% higher than a normal person's. The difference is significant. These are all evidence that supports your point of view. In theory, we can believe that the mutant virus has brought about an initial transformation and adaptation process to the target. However, if you want to be serious, there are other explanations. In comparison, the reasoning of, it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go, is more convincing. How about increasing the sample? Did you discover anything else? Is this a blessing or a curse? Luo Nan's initial ranking of the living starry sky had indeed filtered out more than one target. He leaned against the wall of the corridor and operated his wristband. He used the electronic map to mark the locations of 3 other suspected targets. There was also a moving target, but it was a bit far away. He gave up on it for now. I'll send the map to the cloud space. You can just download it. It doesn't matter if you share it with Trigate Security. Speaking of which, when will their operation team arrive? Let's not think about the operation team for now. With the traffic control in the city center, it would be considered efficient if they arrive within an hour. I just hope that their relationship with the security department is as good as they're bragging about. Wait a moment. I'll take a call. Peony spoke a few simple words after the call connected. She quickly hung up and reported to Luo Nan, this is good news. Sky Blue Security, where Long 7 is in charge of emergency support work in the municipal plaza area. He's currently bored to death, so he can help out. If there are special circumstances, he can also find people to support him. Sky Blue Security. It had been a long time since he had heard of this. Sky Blue Security was a specialized security company under Quantum Corporation. It was an important department that placed Deep Blue walkers. Over a month ago, this department's combat team had a serious conflict with Luo Nan and Rui Wen. Later on, they suffered from Jack's indiscriminate attacks, resulting in disastrous losses. Long 7, or Snake 7, was a member of this combat team. It must be admitted that Sky Blue Security had the strength. Their equipment was comparable to that of the military's elite troops, and their personnel were well trained. In a certain sense, they could be trusted as a support force. Yes, Luo Nan remembered that Yan Yongbo was once the person in charge of Sky Blue Security in Xia City. But then he was called back to Luo City for a debriefing. It was unclear who the person in charge was now. Luo Nan didn't care about Sky Blue, Earth Blue, or Quantum Atom. All he wanted was a cat that could catch mice. In any case, this wouldn't affect his pay at all. The only thing that would give him a headache was Trigate Security. Do as you see fit. Call me if there's any progress. Mo Ye cast a glance at him as soon as Luo Nan returned to the room. She seemed to be very interested, girlfriend. Luo Nan was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head, no. Just an ordinary friend. Hai Jing laughed from the side, so it really is a girl. Moya raised her hand to look at her watch, a total of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. You didn't dare to hang up on Mother's reprimanding call. This kind of call length should have broken the record. Luo Nan grimaced in pain. Moya, that's enough. Could it be that the first thing you did after entering the pop music world was to become vulgar? Hai Jing continued to play the role of a supporting actor. Nanster is very popular with women right now. Not everyone can stay an entire morning in the BHD practice room. The two sang the same tune, not letting go of Luo Nan. Luo Nan was annoyed, but his heart stirred when he saw the relatively distant state of the others at the table. Chapter 465. If they really wanted to make a fuss about the atmosphere, Luo Nan would be in danger of being sacrificed for nothing. From the looks of things, the other three were not on the same page. Wang Yimo and Huang Xiangdong were preoccupied with their thoughts. They were not in the mood to play around. As for Ma Lu, who was engrossed in eating and drinking, the corner of his lips was about to overflow with ridicule. Luo Nan didn't even sit down. He spread his hands towards the adulterous couple in front of him and made a helpless and innocent expression. Aren't your methods a bit too low? Luo Nan didn't say it directly, but the meaning was clear. Moya acted as if nothing had happened, but Hai Jing was a bit thin-skinned. He coughed lightly and said, actually, with Nancy's current age, it really isn't a big deal for him to know a few female friends. Even Auntie Luo probably wouldn't mind. Yeah. At his age, a certain agent already has 3 fans. After this incident, Auntie Luo really wouldn't mind too much. Ma Lu suddenly spat out these words, instantly silencing the private dining room. The stimulating effect was 10 times stronger than Moya and Hai Jing's efforts. Even Wang Yimo and Huang Xiangdong, who had been drifting away emotionally, raised their eyebrows. In the circle, the 3 fans had a specific meaning. They included face powder, grass powder, and sucking powder. Face powder referred to plastic surgery. Grass powder referred to having a relationship with a fan. Sucking powder went without saying. This kind of situation was not uncommon in the underground circle. It was also the atmosphere of the circle that Luo Shuqing had always hated. It was not news for anyone to be involved in these 3 things in the underground circle. However, if Ma Lu's revelation was true, then Hai Jing, who had always presented himself as a decent person, had such rich experiences back in the day. This made Luo Nan a bit surprised. Then, was the relationship between Hai Jing and Moya unable to take a step further because of this past influence? Perhaps his family was also a hindrance. Of course, from his own standpoint, Luo Nan probably wouldn't have agreed if Hai Jing really had such a loose past. Back to reality, Ma Lu's shameless remarks were really too humiliating. The smile on Hai Jing's face was already stiff. Moya was expressionless. Wang Yimo and Huang Xiangdong looked left and right. In the end, they both lowered their heads, wanting to continue pretending not to hear. But was there any meaning in this sort of self-deception? Hai Jing did not say a word. He got up from his seat and pulled the door open to leave. A cool breeze blew in from outside, making the air in the room flow a little. Uncle Ma, are you crazy? In the band, Huang Xiangdong was the youngest and the most impatient. Seeing that his manager had run away in anger, he couldn't help but slam his hands on the table and hold his head in disbelief. We'll be going on stage in 5 hours. What can't you say after that? Ma Lu chuckled. So, before going on stage, a certain manager is like the king of heaven, untouchable. I didn't provoke you. When he provoked me, you even used the corner of your shirt to blow your nose. This is king personal grudge. Then how do you know that a certain agent signed us for the sake of fairness? Huang Xiangdong's face turned red and he almost got up to smash the table. Wang Mo, who was beside him, saw that the situation was not good and rushed forward to hug him. Stop talking, stop talking. However, people were like this. The more they were pulled, the angrier they became. Huang Xiangdong struggled for a while, but to no avail. He turned on his berserk mode and pointed at Ma Lu's nose. Are you AF** King Saint? You've been acting weird since the day you signed the contract. Didn't signing with a commercial company ruin your image? Uncle Ma, Master Ma, if you want to be the king of the industry, you should have said so earlier. If you have the guts, throw your pen away. If you have the guts, go solo. Bang! Moya slammed the table. It was rare for her to get angry like this. The room was silent for a moment, and then there was another bang. The half-closed door was pushed open, and the waiter pushed in a dining cart. It was filled with beer, and there were at least 10 of them. Wang Mo was dumbfounded. Who wants it? Did you send it to the wrong place? I want it. Hai Jing walked back with a cold face. The rehearsal starts at 4 in the afternoon. It'll be your turn at around 5 or 6. According to the schedule, you must go back before 3:30 to prepare. Before that, we can have a good discussion. He threw a small metal box on the table. Hangover medicine for cowards. Ma Lu sneered. Do you think you're acting in a movie? Hai Jing looked over with cold eyes. Red deer. You're red deer. Just look at who's talking about red deer. Back in the day, you know which bastard brought me a fan. Now, everyone knows who's feeling guilty and is worried about their reputation. What now? If you have the guts, say it, do it, but if you don't have the guts to admit it. Ma Lu jumped to his feet. He looked like he was going to fight. Hai Jing didn't even bat an eyelid. He just opened the bottle and smashed it on the table. I'll say it like this. Aside from Moya and Luo Nan, everyone else in this room is AF** King Bastard. Some are arrogant, some are pretentious, some are unrestrained. He smashed a bottle of beer on the table every time he spoke. The foam wrapped around the alcohol spilled out. Surprisingly, no one in the room refuted him. Only Moya chuckled. She took the initiative to reach out her hand and ask Hai Jing for a bottle of beer. Let's play in a band together. I'm not a good person either. Hai Jing gave her a deep glance and really did hand over a bottle of beer. He completely ignored Luo Nan. The 4 targets are all under close surveillance. At the same time, we're already digging deep into their social relationships. Geographical factors are meaningless. Let's research social factors. From a sociological perspective, they are all women. They are of similar age. They are beautiful. This similarity is a clue in and of itself. Overall, we believe in your professional abilities, Mr. Partner. Thank you for your trust. Luo Nan laughed in response. He recalled something. Oh right. There's another suspect target aside from these 4 targets. She's been moving around the municipal plaza all this time. Since you have enough manpower now, you should monitor that person as well. The moving target never left Luo Nan's range of senses. Luo Nan observed her from a distance as he described her appearance. This is also a woman. She's around 16 or 17 years old. She shouldn't be a university student. She's been shopping with her friends. Oh, she's come out now. She's joined some sort of team. A parade. It's not a parade. I saw a support sign. It should be a fan of some celebrity. They know that there's a performance tonight and they came to the plaza to support them. These fans have always been super organized. Luo Nan had become more experienced in this aspect after spending an entire morning with the BHD group. Peony's focus was different from his. She's also a woman. How's her appearance? She's quite decent. Above average. TSK. You really are a stalker. Why are you so sensitive to women? Speaking of which, I'm also a beauty. Do you want to meet? I said it before. It's just that I have a lot of eyes. Okay. Whatever Mr. Partner says. I won't expose your nature as a shut-in. Hee hee. The two ended the call. Luo Nan shook his head. He had the feeling that Peony was using psychological profiling techniques on him. The more he interacted with her, the clearer his true image would become. With Peony's intelligence, could he really keep his identity a secret? Luo Nan didn't know why Her Majesty Empress Wu would make such an unnecessary move. This situation was quite embarrassing. Luo Nan let out a breath of turbid air and turned his attention back to the back. Mo Ye and her group were still staggering as they walked. At this speed, it would be up to the blessings of the heavens to be able to return to the Tonghui building by 3:30. Oh. Who's that? Luo Nan saw someone walk out from the underground passageway. The timing was perfect. The person just happened to be right in front of Mo Ye and her group. The person's gaze cut across the group of drunkards before finally stopping on Mo Ye's face. Though the person was blocking the path, it didn't look like he had any intentions of giving way. Instead, he took the initiative to speak. Mo Ye. This person should be familiar with Mo Ye and her group. Luo Nan could see that Mo Ye was startled for a moment before she happily responded. Anyone could feel an extremely strong sense of purpose when they saw the movement trajectory organized by the security personnel. Luo Nan just felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. The actions of this Luo Yuan posed an immeasurable threat to him and even his family members. Luo Nan couldn't help but make a few deductions in his mind. The results made his scalp faintly swell. This sort of monster was empty on the mental plane. Most of Luo Nan's mental abilities became mere decorations. If they were to really fight, Luo Nan could count on very, very few methods. Qi Nikuan's expression was grave. I'll contact the military police outside and find a reason to interrogate them. Mo Ye and the others had already walked to the corner by now. They were a bit surprised to see Luo Nan and a stranger leaning against this place. Luo Nan suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and asked Mo Ye as if nothing had happened, I saw you talking to someone just now. Who's that? Oh, that. His name is Luo Yuan. We met at the Man Town Music Festival. He's an uncle with an awesome smoky voice. He's especially good at seducing people. Wang Yimo added, the expression of the wilderness minor tune is very strong. According to him, he can only get the taste out of searching for treasures and picking up girls in the wilderness all year round. The wilderness. Luo Nan and Qi Nikuan exchanged glances once more. This was even more troublesome. Were vagrants included? Qi Nikuan immediately gave an order to his subordinates. Search the vagrant database. Prioritize the area around Xia City. All information from the security personnel went through the psychic wave network. Outsiders wouldn't be able to find out. However, Qi Nikuan standing here was already very eye-catching. Mo Ye cast her gaze over. She was a bit puzzled. This is... Oh, Brother Qin is a friend I met at the Daguan. Luo Nan's brain suddenly jammed when he spoke to this point. He could only throw the blame away. Luckily, Qi Nikuan's skill at throwing the blame was quite high. He had a calm smile on his face as he took the initiative to introduce himself. I'm Qi Nikuan. I met Nanster during an exchange at the Daguan. I work for a security company. Our company is responsible for patrolling the area for the university students' demonstration today. Mo Ye gave a simple introduction of the people here, and the two sides got to know each other. While they were introducing each other, the latest information regarding Luo Yuan came back. Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan didn't feel too good when they received the news. No one. How could there be no one? Yes. There were no traces of this person in the car. The driver is an employee of a regular car rental company. He doesn't know anything. He said that after the customer got off the car, he never came back. I feel like he's missing a piece of his memory. It's like he was swallowed by a ghost. Although Hai Jing was one of the people in charge of Mingtang culture here, it was impossible for him to control the security personnel of the entire office building. He didn't care when he saw that there were no problems with God's clothes and authority. As the elevator went up, he asked a few questions about the situation of the underground passageway that led directly to the backstage. God answered fluently and gave him the contact number of the person in charge. Hai Jing had already saved it, but he was still very grateful. Chapter 467. When the elevator reached the 56th floor, it was already 3:45 p.m. For Mountain Stream and all the artists from Mingtang culture, this was the real battle preparation stage. They didn't need to think about practicing anymore. All they needed to do was relax and adjust their state of mind. Hai Jing drinking with a group of people might seem out of line, but it was actually a prelude to relaxing. It was perfect for a grassroots band like Mountain Stream. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort. However, it wasn't easy to get rid of the effects of drunkenness. As soon as they returned to the practice room, Hai Jing acted like a manager and ordered all the members of Mountain Stream to sleep, especially Huang Xiangdong and Ma Lu, who had drunk too much. Ma Lu's alcohol tolerance was fine. He just squatted on the floor and refused to get up. Huang Xiangdong, on the other hand, was extremely excited. He picked up his beloved bass and played an impromptu solo. It was rare that he was still in tune. In the deep sound, Hai Jing arranged methodically, the wake-up time is at 4:30 p.m. There are still 45 minutes left. You are all old drunkards and have taken drugs. There is enough time. I will arrange for the transportation of the instruments and send them directly backstage. For now, don't think about anything else. Have a good sleep. Wang Mo raised his hand, but Brother Jing, we are still missing one person. Hai Jing was stunned. Alcohol still had an effect on him. He didn't realize that the drummer, Shu Yi, had not returned yet. He reacted quickly, don't worry about it. I will contact her. He said it lightly, but after 2 rounds of calls, Shu Yi did not pick up. No one could stay calm now. Without one person, how could they perform at night? Huang Xiangdong, who was still drunk, roared, would have F***ed 2 months ago. Mo Ye kicked him against the wall. Huang Xiangdong and Shu Jing had been a couple for a period of time, but they had broken up. Although their band was small, there were many messy things going on inside. In the midst of the chaos, Shu Yi finally picked up the 3rd round of calls. She said that she had just returned and would be there soon. Not long after, the door to the practice room opened. Shu Yi walked in. Her long hair was wet, and she was panting. Her face was bright red. From the smell of her breath, it seemed that she had drunk too. Huang Xiangdong glared at Shu Yi. He wanted to say something to his ex-girlfriend, but he was also drunk, so he didn't have the qualification to say that. He could only vent his anger by pulling the strings. Bass's low voice swept through the training room again. However, the next moment, Hai Jing snatched it away. Sober up, take a bath, change your clothes, and sleep. This is your current task. There is no time to waste. Hurry up. Shu Yi snorted and went to the lounge. He staggered a little. Moya asked her, are you okay? There are sobering pills here. Okay. Shu Yi flipped her hair and couldn't help laughing. When she reached out to take it, she didn't even manage to catch it. Luo Nan frowned from behind the door. Poor sense of distance. Chaotic emotions. Signs of stimulating activity in many areas of the brain. Did this sis take drugs? Taking drugs to get high before a performance was a bad habit of many bands in the industry, and many people had been ruined by it. Shui Yi's method, in the long run, was really not wise. In any case, the matter was resolved perfectly for now. Luo Nan didn't need to stay in the mountain stream band's room any longer. He called out to them and left, saying that he was going to rest for a bit. Outside the door, God stood in the hallway, waiting. Cat Eyes was next to him. Cat Eyes had already received some news. She chuckled, "What's wrong? Did you cause trouble again?" Luo Nan was too lazy to answer. He asked God, "Is there any news about that Luo Yuan?" God shook his head, "Not yet." Why did he suddenly disappear? Luo Nan felt a bit of a headache. However, the three of them were not company personnel standing in the hallway. They were quite eye-catching, so Luo Nan made the decision to choose a place to discuss matters. It was room 5627. He had the authority and password, and there was no one there. The automatic cleaning system of Tonghui building was trustworthy. Luo Nan didn't discover any traces of the indescribable path after entering the room. The air was still quite clear. He sighed and stretched. He warmed up his muscles and bones, pondering what to do next. God spoke up at this time. "There's the latest information regarding that Luo Yuan. Have you found him? Where is he?" "No. We haven't found any traces of the target, but we have some clues regarding his identity." The society had never stopped collecting and organizing information ever since Luo Nan's warning. Fortunately, this Luo Yuan didn't seem to be a particularly low-key person. The three of them could access the psychic wave network, and the relevant information could be easily shared. God gave a further explanation: Luo Yuan, a vagrant of the wilderness. He's a relatively famous gene dealer. A nicer way to describe a so-called gene dealer was a gene merchant. This occupation used various methods to collect valuable genetic samples and provide services to various laboratories that did related topics. Their targets included relatively rare animals and plants, as well as various successful people in society, and even mutants and ability users. Cat Eyes sneered, "Dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes, and the son of a mouse can dig holes." This kind of thinking is quite popular right now. Many laboratories want to make some achievements on this path. It's a sunrise industry. Luo Nan was a bit puzzled. Since he's a gene dealer, he must be interested in some special genes. Who's his target? Cat Eyes and God cast their gazes over as soon as Luo Nan finished speaking. "Me? Are you happy? If you're short on money in the future, you can make some money by selling genes." Luo Nan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What's wrong with that? If he's really interested in my genes, can't I just pluck out a strand of my hair and give it to him? Or should I just spit on him? Also, he can go to the hospital. In today's society, genetic sampling was a physical examination program that existed from a young age. Every few years, the Public Welfare Department would go to schools and families to collect genetic samples to screen for various fatal diseases. There was also a common saying that the government did this in order to perfect the human gene pool and strengthen their ability to control society. In any case, the genetic information of a citizen was absolutely no secret to those who had the ability. There was no need to go against the Xia City branch. Cat Eyes clicked her tongue twice and shook her head. "Boss, you may be young, but don't treat ignorance as happiness, okay? Have you ever heard of the limit gene? Is that a word you coined? I don't help the society take the blame. This concept is quite popular in the inner world. It involves the problem of the source of an ability user's power. There are quite a few people who believe that the source of an ability user's power lies in the strengthening and modification of the human body's original genes by their extraordinary abilities. The genes of the same person before and after their ability awakens will be different. Similarly, the genetic structure of the peak limit state will be different from the normal state. Although this theory doesn't have solid data to support it, many people believe in it. Therefore, many gene dealers are all perverts. Luo Nan felt a bit dizzy. Where's the logic in your words? God explained in a deep voice from the side, a first-rate gene dealer is also a first-rate torturer. They use all sorts of methods to make their targets experience multiple states and stages. Finally, they are forced to the point of no return in order to obtain the most complete genetic sample. They can do this to mutants, and they can also do this to humans. Therefore, being targeted by a gene dealer is absolutely not an easy thing to do. Luo Nan raised his eyebrows, but he didn't say anything. God reminded him a step further, plus, from the current information, the so-called gene dealer is likely just a layer of cover. After all, his transaction records are far too few. Perhaps there are deeper secrets that haven't been exposed. The society is still continuing to investigate, but some information requires the use of headquarters authority. Right now, they are still communicating. The latter half of God's words were suddenly cut off. Before this, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes had already sensed that someone was coming into the room. The outer door trembled several seconds later. Before the person entered the room, a voice was already transmitted in, "Don't worry about the rehearsal. We still have a long period of time. Young Master can't you just wait a bit?" Ah! The female artist laughed as she rushed in, still pouting coquettishly without end. She didn't pay attention to the environment in the room at all. But the three enormous figures in the empty room could be seen with a single glance. It was hard not to see them even if they didn't want to. The female artist was stupefied in place a second later. However, Donglu, who was behind her, clearly didn't wake up in time. He saw her body stop, so he wrapped an arm around her waist from behind. He moved up and down ceaselessly. Oh my! I've always admired the body management of the artists under Mingtang culture. Ha! Donglu finally discovered the situation in the room. He had been stupefied for a record-breaking 5 seconds. Then he laughed mischievously, "So you guys are already here. I know. First come, first served. You guys take your time to play. You all understand that your tastes are quite heavy." In the end, even he himself didn't know what to say. He pulled the female artist away in a sorry state. Luo Nan stared at them the entire time. Even though the door was closed, his mental senses were still locked onto them. Cat Eyes cast a sidelong glance at him. "Hey, you're interested in that woman too. But her body management is really quite good. She practices at my place all year round. She can rank in the top 5. Luo Nan ignored the nonsense inside and asked, "Didn't you notice? That person seems to be..." "Oh, you're talking about Lon Lin." "Yeah. She and Lon Lin were here this morning." "That's right." Cat Eyes wasn't interested in discussing this topic. She interrupted Luo Nan's words. "First-rate body management doesn't mean that desire management is equally outstanding. Plus, standards aren't the same in this circle. Speaking of which, your standards are quite conservative. You and Captain Gao should be on the same page on this point." Gauda didn't react at all. It was as if he hadn't heard anything. Luo Nan's lips curled. His mental senses continued to linger on the female artist's body. The scene just now gave him a vague reminder. It made him think of a few things, but he was unable to grasp them for the time being. "Do you think that the enemy someone provoked is the same terrorist you dealt with in the army?" Cat Eye's evaluation was very sharp, but this did not mean that she cared about Luo Nan that much. She was just picking at him out of habit. God was not angry. He simply replied, "The security team must respect Mr. Luo's wishes. This is the first time I've realized that security work can be so humane. That's because Mr. Luo isn't a wealthy businessman with a big belly." When Vice President He arranged the mission, he mentioned that Mr. Luo has the ability to break free from security forces. If he doesn't cooperate, security work is just empty talk. God spoke up to this point, but he still added, "Mr. Luo has taken good care of us up until now." Cat Eyes giggled, "In other words, you guys are just waiting for him to blow up, right? Continuing to speak would just be bickering." God rationally shut his mouth and said nothing. Luo Nan knew that God had suffered a calamity because of him. He simply ended the topic, "I'll go meet up with Moya and the others first. Speaking of which, I'll just kidnap Moya and bring her home. Hee, pretend I didn't say anything. In any case, finding Luo Yuan is the safest method." He was just about to get up when Hai Jing called, "Nanster, it's a bit messy upstairs right now. It's not easy to arrange people. Do me a favor and leave the elevator open. If the main elevator isn't enough, then the backup elevator is fine." "Okay, got it, Brother Jing." Luo Nan responded as his mental senses directly covered the area. For the sake of secrecy, Mingtang culture had refused to use the public elevator when they reserved this floor. There was only one dedicated elevator and one backup elevator. There were at least 100 people on this floor, including artists, assistants, and staff. They were all gathered at this time, and they all had to rush backstage. Even though they had already considered the diversion, the elevator's usage rate was still extremely high. Luo Nan used his mental senses to scan the floor situation. He saw that there was a large piece of luggage being transferred in the direction of the main elevator. He simply gave up on using the elevator. His consciousness swam to the backup elevator. He saw that a group of people had just gone down, so he used his soul strength to interfere with the material plane and pressed the down button. Cat Eyes let out a long sigh, mental interference with reality. Just use it on the elevator. Don't you hear the 100,000 ability users crying? The straight line distance between room 5627 and the backup elevator was at least 50 to 60 meters. Cat Eyes was barely able to track it. It wasn't that Cat Eyes couldn't press the button through the air, but she couldn't reach Luo Nan's level of lifting something heavy as if it were light. He tapped his wristband, indicating that he had a call to answer. He squeezed out of the crowd and blocked the entrance to the elevator. He was rejoicing in his heart. Fortunately, Peony was communicating through a rubber band. He needed to transform on the mental plane. Otherwise, he would have leaked out everything with his troublesome method just now. Ma Lu laughed with a hoarse voice. "You don't need to stand guard at the entrance. We're a bunch of people squeezed in here. It's hard to get a pin inserted. Whoever comes over will have to obediently line up. Come over and chat with Uncle Ma for a bit. I'll teach you a few moves." A certain person forcefully raised his seniority, immediately drawing a wave of hisses. But the heat in the elevator was really stirred up. Perhaps this was a good sign for tonight's performance. Luo Nan ignored this group of people. He leaned against the door frame and downloaded information from the cloud space. He felt a silhouette approach him as he was operating. The silhouette leaned against his side, but the silhouette had no intention of communicating. Luo Nan turned his head to look and greeted politely, "Sister Shui." The person who came over was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band, Shui. She liked to use the Tesla coil to enhance her visual effects during her performance. She had the title of Electro Girl in the underground circles. As for whether this was a compliment or a derogatory one, it was up to the individual to decide. Shui crossed her arms over her chest. Her eyelids drooped, and she looked a bit sleepy. She was incompatible with the impassioned mood in the elevator, and she ignored Luo Nan. Luo Nan didn't find this strange. People who took drugs couldn't be judged by common sense. As long as this person didn't delay tonight's performance, it wouldn't be a problem. He went straight to look at the downloaded information. There were a total of 5 people, including the new monitoring targets from before. They were all around 20 years old. Looking at their respective social relations records, they were quite normal. They were about the same age as their peers. If Luo Nan were to ponder over the densely packed network of relationships by himself, he would probably die from a headache. Fortunately, Peony had already organized the information beforehand. She marked out the most crucial information. They are all paid VIPs of the Sky Street community. And they are all very active in the private section, Xing Meng, which requires referrals. Sky Street. Where have I heard of this name before? Luo Nan recalled as he looked at the annotations. Peony's description was on it: Sky Street, East Asia's largest information distribution center for the entertainment circle. Oh, it's that. Luo Nan suddenly understood. Wasn't this the gossip community that Bai Yu had logged into when she searched for the latest news on Shiwei in the morning? But what was that Xing Meng section for? Chapter 470. Luo Nan knew that he must have said something wrong, but he didn't know where it was wrong. As he looked around, all he could see were the rock and roll fans whistling and laughing. Bai Yu, Shui Yuan and Clara were all avoiding his sight. Moya also stopped the communication, a helpless expression on her face. Oh, there was also Cat Eyes. She had a typical mocking expression on her face. It seemed that she also knew about the inner workings of the game. If he had known earlier, he would have asked her. Luo Nan wasn't an idiot. He knew from looking at the situation that the Xing Meng edition was most likely the route of the noble circles are truly chaotic. Forget it, pretend I didn't ask. Ma Lu laughed when he heard Luo Nan's words. He didn't continue to tangle with Luo Nan. Instead, he pointed at Moya. Say, do you think your brother is pretending to be pure? Or really pure? Moya would not answer such a retarded question. Okay. Who wants to dispel Luo Nan's doubts? Let's chat in private. Don't turn a deaf ear to my words. Hurry up and check your bags. If anyone dares to say that they're short weight, I'll make sure he or she works for the company for free for the next 2 years. Hai Jing finally brought out the cold-blooded style of a manager and forcefully controlled the situation. The 2 teams responded in a scattered manner. Luo Nan immediately sent a private message to Cat Eyes. Send me the relevant information. Don't worry, wait a few more minutes. Maybe some girl will edit it for you in private. Cut the crap. Alright, you are the boss. Actually, I don't know much about it. I only heard that the Star Dream version is actually the one-night stand version. The ones who are active in it are mostly flesh and blood. Occasionally, there will be some naive ones. Of course, the main selling point was the male and female celebrities. They solve their physiological needs, while the other side enjoys the halo of fame. Some professionals even earn some extra money. That's about it. This should be considered semi-public, right? That's what I want. Alright. The general situation was pretty much the same as what Luo Nan had imagined. He didn't waste any more time, immediately contacting Peony and summarizing this matter. He also delivered his analysis. The 5 surveillance targets are all ordinary families. They should be fanatical fans or prey. If there really was an intersection on this page, then the intersection point should be a certain celebrity. This circle shouldn't be too big, so it shouldn't be a problem to find the source of the infection. Hey, are you listening? Luo Nan gazed at Peony through Ink's perspective. At this time, that person was sitting quietly in a high-altitude restaurant, overlooking the entire municipal square from the window. But Luo Nan didn't know why, but he felt that her eyes weren't quite focused. You were just flirting with your lover a moment ago, and now you want to break up. Just as Luo Nan was about to call out again, Peony raised her hand and lightly brushed away the messy hair on her forehead. Her long and slender fingers just happened to block Ink's line of sight, making it hard for Luo Nan to see clearly. After a brief second, Peony responded, "No need to repeat yourself a second time. What you're saying is that someone with stage 2 or 3 infections is spreading the mutated virus through sex in a small circle." The straightforward and accurate description made Luo Nan a bit uncomfortable. But this little stimulation seemed to have stirred up a certain part of his brain, giving him some subtle and unclear feelings. Did I miss out on some information? Hey! Are you listening? Peony flipped her hand and flicked her sword back. Her words were exactly the same as what Luo Nan had said before. Yes, I understand. Alright, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So that's it. Also, what's up? Peony cast her gaze outside the window. Her gaze just happened to meet Ink, who was hooked onto the windowsill. It was unknown when her eyes, which had been overflowing with light, had condensed once more. They were bright and clear. "I wish you good luck, Mr. Partner." "Thank you." Luo Nan's mind was filled with bewilderment. Fortunately, he had a clear direction of investigation no matter what. Even if part of the problem was solved, he still let out a breath of relief. The backup elevator had already hit the bottom and bounced back. The group of people were about to head backstage. But Luo Nan's mind was still undecided. He needed to ponder over how to deal with the gene dealer's challenge. Perhaps listening to the opinions of professionals and maintaining a distance from Moya would be a decent plan. Luo Nan noticed 2 rather unexpected characters walking over to the backup elevator just as he was thinking. Around 10 seconds passed before the wooden door to the fire escape opened. 2 people walked in one after the other. People subconsciously looked over at the elevator, and many people's nerves instantly tensed up. Director Wu. The person who came over was the highest leader of Mingtang culture here, Director Wu Qingze of the Artists Department. Behind him was the second in command here, Haijing's immediate superior, Director Shaw. Wu Qingze was also an acquaintance. Most people never expected that the big boss of the company would suddenly arrive. This was a true big boss, the kind that concerned everyone's jobs. "Hello, Director Wu." "Hello, Director Shaw." Everyone saluted one after another. Even the normally arrogant and unruly members of the Mountain Creek Band had to put on a superficial act. Luo Nan didn't care. He just followed the crowd and lowered his head. But Director Shaw, who had just passed by him, instinctively returned the salute when he saw Luo Nan like this. He nearly bent his back. Luckily, not many people noticed. Director Wu noticed that the composition of the people here was quite complicated, but their attitudes were quite amiable. He immediately found Cat Eyes. He nodded with a smile. "Teacher Cat Eyes has come personally. Thank you very much." Of course, he didn't overlook the uniformed god. When he found out that it was the building's management, he greeted Assistant Meng rather politely. In the end, he greeted Assistant Meng out of respect for Shi Wei. As for Yu Qin, she was quite close with the BHD group. She was also young, so Director Wu ignored her. No matter what kind of attitude he had, the entire elevator room underwent a transformation with him standing there. The originally chaotic concept of hierarchy suddenly became clear. Under this subtle force, the person with the highest status undoubtedly enjoyed the position closest to the elevator door. Director Wu was unobstructed all the way to the very front. Directors Shaw and Hai Jing stood to his left and right, talking about the progress of their work and so on. As for the others, they mostly used eye contact in place of verbal communication. They would only raise their hands to cover their mouths and whisper to each other intermittently. No matter what, they were unable to return to the atmosphere from earlier. Luo Nan used his all-encompassing mental senses to take in everyone's expressions. He found the subtle psychological changes quite interesting. But soon, he felt the gazes of others observing him. Luo Nan raised his head and discovered that God was looking at him with a subtle expression. Cat Eyes was even whispering to him. Look. It's quite abnormal, right? What are you chattering about behind my back? We're talking about how we can serve you, boss. Speaking of which, on one side you're the boss, enjoying star service. On the other side you're the little brother, bowing and scraping to others. How do you switch between these two modes at will? Are you schizophrenic? Or are you role-playing? Aren't you having fun? Luo Nan was speechless. The two circles were different. One was another. This was very normal. How was he schizophrenic? Sure enough, most patients are unconscious. What do you think, God? God didn't want to get involved in this matter, but he hesitated for a moment due to professional considerations. He still communicated through the psychic wave network. Mr. Luo, it's best if we completely control the situation. Don't let any unexpected situations occur. Before he could finish speaking, a new situation really did occur. Oh my, there are a lot of people here. Luckily, there are even more beauties. There was only one person on this floor who could be so pompous and frivolous. 2 seconds later, He Donglu entered the elevator with a swagger. Old C followed beside him. This young master, who the vast majority of people were unfamiliar with, entered. Director Wu's thoughts are thorough. Oh right, you over there. Go to Shi Wei's room and get me 2 pieces of that unfinished snack. Hurry up. I'll be on the car in a bit. If you really can't do it, I'll run down the stairs. Luo Nan was truly speechless. Surnamed He, you're crazy. Director Wu felt He Donglu's targeting. He was stunned for a moment when Director Shaw jumped out from the side. He displayed outstanding initiative. I'll go with Hai Jing. It'll be a bit more convenient this way. Oh. Surnamed Shaw was already kneeling behind He Donglu's back. He Donglu raised his eyebrows, but he didn't lose the opportunity to ridicule Luo Nan that easily. Okay. Then little brother, just make a trip for me. Run a bit faster. Maybe you can make it to the elevator. Before he could finish speaking, the jumping numbers on the panel of the elevator fixed. After a long back and forth, the elevator finally got into position and an electronic sound rang out. Director Wu, who was in front of the door, didn't think too much after receiving this prompt. In any case, the youngster He Donglu had his eyes on probably wouldn't have a good time. He wasn't willing to get involved, so he waved his hand at Director Shaw. Hurry up and do it. He locked gazes with He Donglu as he finished speaking. They revealed smiles at the same time, switching to the social script. He Donglu seized the initiative. Director Wu, please. Young Master He, please. Director Wu, you're the host. You. Or is it Young Master He? Young Master He. The metal door closed to the side. It was like a flipped script that stretched the camera, causing the scene of the elevator room and the elevator car to blend together. They unconsciously opened up a passageway leading outside. The problem was that He Yuan didn't seem to have any intention of coming out. She just stared at the fixed target behind the crowd until their gazes met. He Donglu felt like he was about to explode. What was hateful was that even so, he was like a marionette. He involuntarily followed He Yuan's gaze and looked behind her. Then he saw a young, wooden face. F***CK. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan was a bit stupefied when he saw He Yuan appear in the elevator. But then the other side directly recruited Old C. Outsiders were muddle-headed, but he, Cat Eyes, and Gauda, who were directly involved, had clear minds. The situation had escalated, and it was extremely serious. Otherwise, with the resources of the society, how could they possibly find external help at the last minute? So when Yuan cast her gaze over, Luo Nan instantly understood her intentions. It was time to get down to business. Luo Nan should have responded, but the moment the situation came to a head, he felt the blood squeezed out of his heart. It was as if it carried an electric current, so much so that his body was paralyzed. Correspondingly, countless electrical signals and chemical signals were transmitted and changed within the neural network. When these complex and subtle stimuli were integrated, they formed a relatively clear emotional color. Among them, the majority were actually restlessness and resistance. So Luo Nan didn't achieve an instant reaction like old C. Instead, he maintained his silence. Cat Eyes and Gao De seemed to be a bit surprised by this. They both turned their gazes over. Luo Nan's facial expression didn't show, but the more gazes focused on him, the more intense the agitation in his heart became. This is embarrassing. What are you afraid of? Is there something here that you're afraid of? Actually, there wasn't. If there was something, it wouldn't be any substance. It would be some sort of metaphysical thing. Luo Nan's attention shifted slightly to where Moya was. Even without using his eyes to observe, he knew that his older sister was observing Yuan. She was quite interested, following Yuan's line of sight in search of the next explosive target. She treated herself as a spectator, but she didn't know that there was a close relationship between the newcomer and her cousin. Originally, the two circles didn't intersect. Or it could be said that Luo Nan had always been careful to maintain the distance between the two circles. But at this moment, because of this sudden incident, the inner world and the original social circle came into direct contact, silently intersecting. Only then did Luo Nan suddenly discover that there clearly existed some sort of irreconcilable conflict between the two. This conflict was precisely the source of Luo Nan's fear. There should be a deeper meaning to this, but Luo Nan was unable to make sense of it in a short amount of time. He only knew that he had to make a choice. It wasn't up to his heart. He had to consider many, many things. Since this was the case, the answer was actually placed right before his eyes. Perhaps the moment Yuan opened her mouth was the beginning of the collapse of the rhythm of life that he worked so hard to maintain. Luo Nan couldn't refuse, but he also wasn't willing to take the initiative to break it. He could only listen to the arrangements of fate. Outside the elevator door, Donglu had enough of this treatment of being completely ignored. He turned his face to face Yuan. He was so angry that his hands were already trembling a bit. You really think of yourself as a secretary? I'm your little brother, excuse me. Ha! Yuan's eyelids were slightly drooping in the elevator car. She temporarily cut off the gaze that had a clear direction. When she opened her eyes again, she walked straight outside, pushing aside a close blood relative who was blocking her way. Old C followed in silence. Donglu staggered outside, and the people behind him split open like waves, causing the already faintly forming passageway to become even wider. As for the end of the passageway, it was still a bit blocked. Luo Nan was right there. Yuan walked past Director Wu's position in 2 steps. Her feet didn't stop as she quickly gave instructions. The security bureau is working. Send 2 people from your company to follow. If there's anything you need, please cooperate. Damn. I finally understand what's going on. Director Wu still had a bit of doubt in his heart, but young master, he had called her sister twice. Even if he had doubts, he had to suppress them. He faced Yuan's back and said, okay. Then he was a bit hesitant. Who should I leave? Director Shaw had a flash of inspiration at this time. He volunteered once more. Director, I'll bring someone with me. That's fine. Talk less and do more. Keep in touch at all times. Director Wu's head was swollen from the series of matters. He also knew that this matter was related to the security bureau and that it was best not to blindly meddle with it. He was disinclined to think too much, so he agreed to Director Shaw's suggestion. Then, little Luo, follow me. Director Shaw's gaze drifted over to Luo Nan as he spoke. He saw that Luo Nan's reaction was calm, and he knew that he had gambled correctly. He clenched his fist in secret. He Yuan just happened to brush past Luo Nan at this time. Gao De reacted quickly. I'm the building's property manager, follow me. He Yuan nodded imperceptibly as she spoke. In fact, she was pointing at Luo Nan. Luo Nan let out a sigh of relief. He even had the time to give Mo Ya a reassuring gesture before turning around to follow. Right after he turned around, his face inexplicably heated up. He Yuan led the group of people through the safety passageway very quickly, disappearing from everyone else's line of sight. Most of the people in the elevator were still in a daze. Cat Eyes leaned against the door frame and scratched her chin. Hey. The reasons are so abundant. What should I do? Chapter 472. Thank you, Sister Yuan. Luo Nan expressed his thanks to He Yuan in the first instance after entering the long corridor. He was clear in his heart that He Yuan's original plan was certainly not like this. Following the rhythm from the beginning, directly bringing him into the elevator was the most reasonable judgment. As for why it became like this, the reason, He Yuan, you're asking for it. He Donglu, who was already rambling incoherently, caught up from behind. He roared loudly from far away. This complete loss of composure attracted the attention of a few rooms on the floor. The artists and staff who had yet to leave stuck their heads out to take a look. But very quickly, they met Manager Shaw's fierce gaze, and they immediately stopped and closed the door to protect themselves. However, He Donglu's brain had already been fried by the flames of anger. He chased after He Yuan, wanting to pull He Yuan's arm and demand an explanation. Old C had no choice but to hug him when he saw that he was so irritable, but he didn't know how to stop him. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed when he saw this situation, but he heard He Yuan say, "Don't get distracted. Let the security personnel handle these chores." Just as he finished speaking, God had already walked to He Donglu's side. He extended his hand and took out a small and exquisite spear-like object, aiming it at He Donglu's neck. F***ck, He Yuan, that's enough. Upon seeing this, He Donglu's eye sockets were about to split open. He struggled even more frantically. However, Old C didn't have the slightest intention of letting go. As God pulled the trigger, anesthetic drops were injected into the skin on the side of He Donglu's neck. In less than 2 seconds, the world became peaceful. He Yuan swept a glance. Settle them down. Old C pondered for a moment. Only Shi Wei's suite was considered convenient and easy to take care of. He excused himself to He Yuan and carried He Donglu inside. The others were still fine, but Supervisor Shaw was already dumbfounded. This officer He Yuan could really be said to be iron-faced. She didn't even care about her own brother's feelings and treated him like a passerby. Just as he was thinking about it, someone behind him suddenly laughed. The secretary really treats the boss to relieve his worries and doesn't avoid his in-laws. But aren't you spoiling him too much? Cat Eyes found a random reason to get away and followed after him with the sound of her high heels clicking. To her question, He Yuan did not answer. Cat Eyes was unwilling to forgive him. Just now, we directly pulled him downstairs and met up with the security team. Everything would have been fine and dandy. In the end, things ended up like this. Don't you think it's funny when you put all your actions together? She directly pointed out the crux of the matter, causing the situation that had been eased with great difficulty to return to awkwardness. Well, the only one who felt awkward was Luo Nan. Luo Nan knew that Cat Eyes seemed to be targeting He Yuan, but in reality, she was seizing the opportunity to take revenge. Every word and sentence was mocking him. Unfortunately, he was unable to retort, so he lowered his head in silence for a time. Focus. Only now did Yue open her mouth. She gave the same advice as before, and then she turned to Cat Eyes. Since you are born human, your family and the impressions of your family are very important. For some people, they are more important than others. TSK, it sounds sweet. Yue asked in a flat tone, if because of this kind of problem, it causes my mind to be distracted, my condition to be bad, and when I encounter trouble, what should I do? Since you're here, and the security team, in this environment, do you trust the security team more, or do you trust yourself more? Hey, Captain Gao is still here. Gaoda's face was expressionless. In the face of true trouble, the security team is only there to share the pressure, to check for weaknesses and make up for loopholes. I know you guys have military backgrounds, so there's no need to show solidarity here, right? Cat Eyes rolled her eyes. And then? You guys are going to act according to his temperament. Yue turned to look at Luo Nan. Harvest and effort are equal in principle. One more layer of change, one more job. This will consume even more mental strength. I believe that Mr. Luo has already made preparations. Luo Nan watched Yue and Cat Eyes communicate from the side. He already vaguely understood the reasoning within, but he was unwilling to speak at this time, so he remained silent. Yue didn't mind. She turned to Manager Shaw and said, "We need an empty room." Right now, most of the artists, assistants, and staff on this floor were heading backstage. Finding an empty room was the easiest. Even so, Manager Shaw was still very nervous. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He used the authority control software to confirm repeatedly before finding the closest room. 5610, this room is a bit small, but it's always been unused. It's clean. Manager Shaw opened the door and invited the group inside. He wanted to follow along, but he was stopped by Gauda. Boss Luo. Manager Shaw instinctively wanted to know Luo Nan's attitude. Even though this young man seemed to be lectured to the point where he couldn't raise his head, wasn't this the same situation in the elevator in the morning? When all was said and done, the one who gave him the greatest mental shock was this seemingly obedient young man. Luo Nan felt Manager Shaw's fearful and expectant emotions, and he turned to give him a glance. There's nothing else for you to do. Go do what you need to do. Manager Shaw let out a long sigh of relief. He nodded and bowed as he withdrew. Si Guoxing had also settled He Donglu down at this time and hurried over. Gauda closed the door after waiting for the relevant personnel to enter the room, isolating the inside from the outside. This place instantly turned quiet. Ever since Cat Eyes was reduced to a believer, she became more and more casual when dealing with people and things. She didn't care about etiquette and the like. She had already found a chair to sit in, and she blurted out, "You're all professionals after all." Ha! She was suddenly startled. Her gaze streaked across Luo Nan's face before falling on Yue. Hold on. Wouldn't a certain someone and his sister be separated like this? And he even ended up shedding tears of gratitude. So I'm the only one who's a vile character in vain. Luo Nan was stupefied in place for a moment. What she said seemed to be true. Yue didn't feel awkward because of Cat Eyes' words. She found an open area after entering the room. She crouched down and placed the silver-gray suitcase on the ground. She entered the password, and everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Cat Eyes looked at Luo Nan. Boss, what are your thoughts right now? Luo Nan recovered from his sluggish state. He didn't know what to say at first, but his mind spun a few times. He unconsciously recalled the series of reactions he had in the elevator a few minutes ago. Soon, he grinned and laughed bitterly. I'm thinking that if I were to be together with Moya and encounter an unexpected situation, I'm afraid I would really be done for if I were to be as conflicted as I was before. How would I have the free time to choose at that time? Cat Eyes couldn't help clicking her tongue twice. Your awareness has risen all of a sudden. Hey, Vice President He. I didn't know that you actually had the talent to be a teacher. Is the He family an instructor in the military? He Yuan was silent for a moment. She waited for the silver-gray suitcase to open to ring out. Only then did she speak softly. With this awareness, Mr. Luo should be able to be more focused. This was the third time she had mentioned a similar request. Luo Nan took a deep breath and responded directly for the first time. No problem. When the needle of the old-fashioned clock in the interrogation room crossed the top of the scale, the driver, who had been sitting in silence all this time, suddenly stretched his neck. His eyes were cast directly in the direction of the camera. His fixed gaze was as if he was looking at them through the lens of the camera. Luo Nan could see that the driver's face was constantly twitching from this moment on. His veins and muscles bulged from time to time, and the corners of his lips twisted under some sort of force. Words were spat out from the corners of his distorted mouth. All the inferior ones will be eliminated. The outstanding ones will be reordered. We have plenty of space, but we will absolutely not tolerate the entry of filth. These words were like the ravings of sleep and the words of madness. They were like a gust of sinister wind, rising from the bottom of everyone's hearts. The police officer in charge of the interrogation couldn't help but stand up. It seemed that he wanted to confirm whether or not the safety confinement facilities were complete. But right before his eyes, the twitching of the driver's face fiercely spread to the rest of his body. The extent of the twitching increased sharply, so much so that he completely lost his human form at some point. He was like a candle that had gone overboard, melting under everyone's gazes. Ah! The police officer in charge of the interrogation was nothing more than an ordinary person. He had never seen such a terrifying scene before. He retreated in a flurry amidst his screams, but he couldn't maintain his balance. He fell on his butt to the ground, bumping into the table behind him. The colleague next to him didn't perform any better than him. He flipped over his chair when he jumped up. The surveillance camera calmly recorded everything. The driver, who had melted into wax, remained in his chair. He spent roughly 30 seconds before his figure and appearance returned to normal. He maintained his posture of looking straight at the camera from beginning to end, but his face was completely different from half a minute ago. Everyone on this side saw the face clearly. Luo Yuan. Although Cat Eyes hadn't personally experienced the situation at the time, she had done her homework. She immediately hissed, "So he's the driver." The problem of Luo Yuan's disappearance under the watchful eyes of everyone at the time was most likely solved. She looked again at Luo Yuan sitting in the interrogation chair. This mysterious person originally possessed extraordinary male charisma, but after witnessing the melted wax remodeling process just now, no one dared to look straight at his face. At this time, the security personnel outside had already rushed in. There were also ability users from the society inside. Under such circumstances, Luo Yuan still faced the camera. He spoke in a manner that was neither hurried nor slow. "No matter which one it is, I will find it." We have no evidence of such a transaction. I understand. The government, the military, and the funds of the major consortiums. Such high-level funding providers won't leave behind any obvious weaknesses. If they were to continue chatting like this, they would stray from the topic. He Yuan decisively changed the direction and revealed the intelligence and conclusion. At present, the understanding of the various parties regarding the gene exchange is very limited. However, there is a basic consensus. this force belongs to the wilderness, and among them, there is one or a few people who possess a type of supernatural power that can be used on a clone body, perhaps including the effect of rapid proliferation. Because of this ability, as long as there are qualified donor cells, it can quickly divide and multiply, forming a complete living body in a short period of time. It's like a bomb, but it's just like a bomb. Create a clone body and then completely vaporize it in a short period of time. Are they demons? To many laboratories, they might be more like gods. Cat Eye's ridicule hit the nail on the head. Luo Nan had a pensive look. If He Yuan's judgment was correct, then this could explain why he was unable to draw Luo Yuan's life sketch in his living starry sky back in the underground passageway. If the target itself was just a clone body that was rapidly proliferating and growing, then it simply wouldn't have the opportunity to form self-awareness. It was reasonable that no traces could be found on the mental plane. Cat Eyes and He Yuan continued to discuss related issues, but Luo Nan didn't participate. He wasn't like these two, who had an extensive and deep understanding of the inner world. Even though he had crammed a few courses, his understanding of the law that only supernatural power could bestow supernatural power was shallow. Therefore, it was useless for him to listen to such matters. Under such circumstances, the only thing he could consider was the superficial things. For example, how should he deal with this enemy that was hard to sense? One of Luo Nan's greatest reliance against enemies was his mental senses. This was especially true in the living starry sky. He could sense the enemy and even attack from a distance, seizing the initiative. This kind of observing and attacking mode was already a move and rhythm that he was used to. He felt that something was wrong if he couldn't use it. This was a problem that belonged to him. Of course, he could only solve it himself. Luo Nan's consciousness wandered the living starry sky. He had no train of thought for the time being, nor did he have a goal. He could only first sort out his own sealed system clearly, checking to see if there were any loopholes. Then he pushed forward layer by layer from the inside out. Of course, it was impossible for any loopholes to exist within his own sealed system. This was more like a ritual. Cat Eyes was in a bad mood because of Luo Nan's inexplicable inspection in the living starry sky. Now that she had found this opportunity with great difficulty, how could she let him go? No matter what the cause is, this is still a political parade in name. Most of the people gathered here right now are youths with excess energy. They stand amidst hundreds of thousands of companions. Under the control of group mentality, they are hot-blooded and fearless. They are worried about not having a place to vent. Tonight's performance is a channel for them to vent. Right now, you're telling them that the parade has been stopped and the performance has been cancelled due to an unwarranted danger. Do you believe me if I told you that you only need to leak a bit of information and you can cause a riot in minutes? Luo Nan went, oh. He ignored Cat Eye's crazy retort. He asked He Yuan, has the clone body been sent to the laboratory? Where is it roughly right now? Cat Eyes was in a bad mood. Luo Nan's attitude caused the sharp thorns of her vicious energy to stab empty air. This was not all. The hidden and incorporeal sealed system gave her more and more pressure. Her experience grew worse and worse. It was as if she was situated in the middle of a large-scale production line that was operating at full capacity. All she could hear was the rumbling of machines. It would have been fine if she was an outsider visitor. But the key problem was that she was a member of this production line. Whether it was a worker, a machine, or a product, her position was determined by a certain person. Cat Eyes stared at Luo Nan. Her heart was restless. She really wanted to charge forward and bite this young man's throat. However, restlessness was restlessness. The thought only spun a few times in her mind before it was annihilated in a puff of smoke under the heavy pressure of the majestic system. She pursed her lips and watched Luo Nan carefully understand the relevant details of the clone body from He Yuan. She was clear in her mind. This seemingly childish big boss, who was essentially emotionless, had already driven the resources of the system he controlled to touch upon a deep level that ordinary people could not even imagine. When the resources of this boss's system were driven by his excessive rational strength, Cat Eyes, as a member of the system, was able to feel the cold and penetrating clairvoyance. She was able to sense the terrifying mutation that had unknowingly seeped into her. Honestly, the childish little show was cuter. In other words, the clone body hasn't been shipped out of the plaza yet. Yes. Only a cell sample has been sent out. Oh. Oh. Chapter 475. Soon, Luonan found his target, the so-called clone body of an ability user. Of course, he was unable to directly observe it. He was able to lock onto it through the indirect projection of the other people present. Right now, the clone body was still in the form of Luo Yuan. His entire body was shackled from head to toe, and he seemed to have been injected with tranquilizers. However, these methods seemed a bit redundant. This person seemed to have lost all ability to think. He sat quietly on the chair, his eyes empty and without luster. Luonan took advantage of the fact that there were people next to the clone body to probe, but it was hard for him to get any results. To the side, Cat Eyes felt that Luonan was scheming something big, but after suppressing herself for a while, her death-seeking mentality prevailed. She wanted to stir up a bit of trouble, so she poked him in the open. "What are you planning?" "Nothing." Luonan responded very honestly. He didn't know what Cat Eyes was thinking. Otherwise, he would have said, "You overestimate me." He really did have an attitude right now, and he was using his brain. But using his brain didn't mean that he had a direction. What he lacked the most right now was a clear train of thought. He wanted to lock onto the thread of Luo Yuan, but this clone body without any mental characteristics had cut off the move he was most proficient in. Patrolling in circles around his own territory clearly wouldn't bring him any inspiration. His current state was, to put it bluntly, very suspiciously like he was putting on airs. What should he do? Before Luonan could break through this obstacle, someone in the outside world contacted him. The message came from Peony, who was leaning against the window. "I've sent the latest analysis to the cloud space according to the information you sent. Pay attention to receive it." "Huh? What are you, for? I thought you were in a daze." "Hee, my dear partner. I invited Mr. Ink to follow me for work needs, not to provide you with the convenience of peeping. Please abide by professional ethics, okay?" Luonan didn't try to explain. In any case, from the results of his peeping, Peony seemed to be smiling yet not smiling when she said these words. Her attitude was subtle. She might not necessarily be angry. Perhaps she was teasing him more than anything else. He didn't want to waste time on these minor details. He simply pretended not to hear and downloaded the information from the cloud space. He didn't want to be distracted. He just wanted to find some inspiration from the information. After all, his greatest discovery today, the stair-like distribution between ordinary people and ability users, including the capture of a few suspected second-stage infected targets, all stemmed from this. Even if he couldn't give him inspiration, he could at least give him some luck, right? Even if he wanted to, he needed to consider the limits of the structure of his body and soul. What he thought was that when faced with an ability user clone body, a special case that couldn't be accommodated by the living starry sky, he could consider it from the path of either non-existent or non-existent. Therefore, he used the external neuron to pull out a notebook and record a few key inspirations. There were 2 points he needed to pay attention to right now. First, the empty shell state. According to the definition of the living starry sky, the so-called ability user clone body wasn't a complete life form. It didn't exist in a state of mutual interference between the material and the mind. It was just an empty shell with a fleshly body. But it was this empty shell that displayed a lively mental state in its negotiations with Moya and the police. It didn't matter if this was a preset program or if someone was controlling it in the dark. The driving force was external. Luo Nan needed to find this clue, and it was very likely that this would involve the domain of the living starry sky. Second, extraordinary power. It wasn't difficult to create a clone person with the current clone technology system. The difficulty lay in how to make it grow quickly and how to make it possess extraordinary power. If the law of only extraordinary power can bestow extraordinary power was correct, then the target itself must possess traces of extraordinary power. Clues could be excavated from the donor cells, the embryo, and even the various stages of growth. He Yuan was certain that this was an ability user clone body, but the target didn't possess traces of the mental plane. Then the direction of his ability must be the fleshly body. This was a more realistic starting point. Luo Nan understood with a single thought. He used the surrounding police personnel and society members as a springboard. He mobilized a bit of soul strength to interfere with the material plane and scan the target. The scanning wasn't done randomly. Luo Nan could be considered a professional after cultivating in the divine Yu Jim for a period of time. The knowledge he learned from Jim Master Xiao just so happened to be put to use. Luo Nan remembered Jim Master Xiao once said that although there were simple and nimble differences in cultivation, the essence of all fleshly body strength was nothing more than the 4 words, bodily functions. The body was the foundation. Bodily functions were the direction. Fleshly body ability users were those who strengthened the foundation of the body. They mobilized the direction of bodily functions. They made it so that they could maintain the basic requirements of life and even ensure a good quality of life. They still had sufficient strength to destroy the foundation of life with pure fleshly body strength. Therefore, to observe the foundation of others, one had to start with bodily functions. One had to observe the structure of the body and observe the flow of vital energy to determine the root receptacle. Only then could one further differentiate and analyze the root nature and capture the root mechanism. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.